Democracy does not require perfect equality. But what it does require is that there be places and occasions, public places and civic occasions, where men and women from different social backgrounds, from different walks of life, can share common experiences. Today, I'd like to invite you to join me in a discussion of one of the great moral and civic questions of our day. What should be the role of money and markets in our society? Today, there are fewer and fewer things that money can't buy. If you should be sentenced to a jail term in Santa Barbara, California, if that ever happens to any of you, you should know that if you don't like the standard accommodations, and if you can afford it, you can buy a prison cell upgrade. It's true. For how much do you suppose? What would you guess? It's about $90 a night. Let me give you a small example. When I was a kid, I grew up in the Midwest. I'm from Minneapolis. I was a Minnesota Twins fan, and I would go to the old outdoor Minnesota Twins baseball stadium. This was in the mid-'60s. There were always box seats and bleacher seats, and the box seats cost more. But what do you suppose was the gap, the difference between the most expensive box seat and the cheapest seat in the bleachers? Anybody remember? In the mid-'60s. $10? It was $3.50 for a box seat and $1 for a seat in the bleachers, even less. The result was that if you went to a baseball game, it was a place where CEOs and mailroom clerks found themselves more or less sitting side by side. It was a class mixing experience. Everybody had to wait in the same long lines for the restrooms. Everyone ate the same soggy hot dogs and drank the same stale beer. And when it rained, everyone got wet. It isn't that way today. If you go to a baseball stadium or most sports stadiums today, there are skyboxes that enable the affluent and the privileged to sequester themselves from the common folk in the seats below. And no longer is it quite the class mixing experience it used to be. Not everyone has to wait on the long lines for the restroom, and when it rains, not everyone gets wet. Something similar has been happening throughout our society. At a time of rising inequality, the marketization of everything means that increasingly, people of affluence and people of modest means live separate lives. We live and work and shop and play in different places. Our children go to different schools. You might call it the skyboxification of American life. It's not good for democracy, nor is it even a satisfying way to live. Not for those down in the bleacher seats, and not for those, I think, those of us who may have the privilege of inhabiting the skyboxes. Why not? Democracy does not require perfect equality. But what it does require is that there be places and occasions, public places and civic occasions, where men and women from different social backgrounds, from different walks of life, can share common experiences, can encounter one another, can bump up against one another in the course of everyday life. Because this is how we learn to negotiate and to abide our differences, and this is how we come to care for the common good. And so the question of markets, in the end, is not mainly an economic question. It's really a question about how we want to live together. Do we want a society where everything is up for sale, or are there certain moral and civic goods that markets do not honor and money cannot buy? Thank you very much.